During World War II, there was a man who received a medal from Nazi Germany. Then he received a medal from Britain. The Germans believed he was one of their most valuable spies. The British knew he was actually working for them. His name was Juan Pujol Garcia. To the Germans, he was Agent Arabelle. To the British, he became Agent Garbo. And his greatest weapon was not a gun, a radio, or a secret camera. It was an imaginary spy network. A network so detailed, so believable, and so useful that German intelligence paid for it, trusted it, and followed it all the way to the wrong beach. This is the story of the man who helped fool Hitler before D-Day. Juan Pujol Garcia was not supposed to become one of the most important double agents of the Second World War. He was born in Barcelona. He had worked ordinary jobs. He had tried business, farming, and hotel management. He was not trained by an intelligence service. He did not come from a military family. He was not the obvious choice for a secret war. But he had lived through the Spanish Civil War, and that war had left him with a deep hatred of extremism. When the Second World War began, Pujol wanted to do something against Nazi Germany. So he went to the British Embassy in Madrid and offered to spy for them. The British turned him down. From their point of view, this made sense. A random man with no training had walked in and said he wanted to become a spy. That is not exactly a normal job interview. But Pujol did not give up. If the British would not let him spy on the Germans, he would make the Germans believe he was spying on the British. So he approached German intelligence. This time, he played a character. He pretended to be a committed Nazi sympathizer with useful connections. He told them what they wanted to hear. And the timing was perfect. Germany needed reliable agents inside Britain. They wanted eyes and ears on the ground. They wanted someone who could report on troop movements, ports, ships, and military preparations. Pujol convinced them he could be that man. The Germans gave him money, secret writing materials, and instructions. His mission was simple: travel to Britain and send intelligence back to Germany. But Pujol did not go to Britain. He went to Lisbon. And from Portugal, he began pretending that he was living in London. He used maps, newspapers, guidebooks, train timetables, and anything else he could find to describe a country he had not actually entered. He wrote about places he had not visited. He described movements he had not seen. He reported conversations that had never happened. And somehow it worked. Because Pujol understood something important. A good lie needs boring details. He did not only send dramatic military reports. He added normal life, weather, illness, delays, personal problems, travel plans, small frustrations, the kind of details that make a fake person feel real. Then he took the lie further. Pujol invented other agents: a contact in Glasgow, a source in Liverpool, a man in Wales, a courier who carried letters, a person near the ports, someone with access to military gossip. Each one had a role, each one had a personality, each one had a reason to exist, and most importantly, each one could be blamed. If a piece of information turned out to be wrong, Pujol did not have to say, "I made it up." He could say, "My source was mistaken." This made the whole system stronger. He was not just inventing reports, he was inventing the people who invented the reports. Over time, this fake network grew. One imaginary agent became several. Several became a full operation. Eventually, under British control, Garbo's network would include 27 fictional sub-agents. None of them existed. But German intelligence believed they did. They believed in the student, the businessman, the courier, the local contacts, the men near the ports, the people hearing rumors in the right places. And because they believed the agents were real, they also believed the expenses were real. They sent money to support the network. By some accounts, the cost of this imaginary operation reached the equivalent of tens of thousands, even around $100,000 a month. Real money for fake people. At first, the British did not know what was happening. They saw intelligence reaching the Germans and worried that there might be a real spy network inside Britain. MI5 began looking for these mysterious agents. But there was a problem. They could not find them, because there was no network. Then British intelligence started reading the reports more closely. The information was strange. Some of it was false, some of it was useless. Some of it arrived too late to help the Germans. But it was not random. Whoever was writing these messages seemed to be misleading Germany on purpose. Eventually, MI5 found Pujol, and instead of arresting him, they realized what he had created. This man had built a fake spy network so convincing that the Germans were already trusting it. So Britain brought him to London. Now he really was in the country he had been pretending to live in. He was given a British handler, Thomas Harris, and a new code name, Garbo. From that point on, the imaginary network became a controlled weapon. Garbo and Harris did not simply send nonsense to Germany. That would have been too obvious. Their job was more delicate. If every report was false, the Germans would stop believing him. If every report was true, Britain would be helping the enemy. So Garbo lived in the narrow space between truth and deception. Sometimes he sent real information, but too late for it to be useful. Sometimes he sent small truths to support a larger lie. Sometimes he reported something accurate after the event had already happened, making the Germans think the source was good, the message just arrived too late. And with every almost useful report, Garbo became more trusted. By the time the Allies began preparing for the invasion of France, that trust had become extremely valuable. The invasion we now know as D-Day was one of the largest military operations in history. The real landing site was Normandy, but the Allies needed Germany to believe the main attack would come somewhere else. The obvious place was Pas-de-Calais. It was the shortest crossing from England to France. If you were looking at a map, Calais made sense. It was exactly where Germany expected a major invasion to happen. So the Allies built a deception around that expectation. They created fake radio traffic, fake military formations, fake equipment, fake signs of a massive army gathering in southeast England, and Garbo's imaginary agents helped make that fake army feel real. One source reported movement near the coast, another hinted at troops and supplies. Another suggested preparations that pointed toward Calais. Piece by piece, report by report, the network built the same picture. The main Allied invasion would come at Pas-de-Calais. Normandy, if it happened, was only the beginning. A diversion, a trap, a first move before the real attack. On June 6, 1944, Allied forces landed in Normandy. D-Day had begun. But Garbo's work was not over. In some ways, the most important part came after the landing. Because once the Allies were on the beaches, Germany had to decide what to do next. Was Normandy the real invasion, or was it a distraction before the main attack at Calais? Garbo helped keep the lie alive. His messages supported the idea that the real blow was still coming, that the forces in southeast England were still waiting, that Calais was still the main target, and that mattered. Because as long as Germany believed in the second attack, it had a reason to hold forces back. Troops that might have been sent to Normandy stayed tied to the wrong expectation. They waited for an invasion that would never come. Garbo did not win the war by himself. No single spy did. D-Day depended on soldiers, sailors, pilots, planners, code breakers, resistance fighters, and an enormous Allied deception operation. But Garbo was one of its most effective pieces. He had spent years building German trust. Then, at the most important moment, he used that trust to point them in the wrong direction. And the strangest part is what happened next. Germany still believed he was loyal. In 1944, the Germans awarded him the Iron Cross. Britain also recognized what he had done, awarding him an MBE. The same man had been decorated by both sides of the same war. One side honored him because they thought he had served them. The other honored him because he had fooled them. After the war, Pujol feared revenge from surviving Nazis, so he disappeared. He allowed people to believe he had died, then moved to Venezuela and lived quietly for decades. For years, Agent Garbo became almost a ghost, a man who had built an army of ghosts. And maybe that is the most unbelievable part of the story. Juan Pujol Garcia did not command tanks. He did not lead troops into battle. He did not break into a fortress or steal a secret weapon. He created people who did not exist. He gave them names, jobs, habits, mistakes, and voices. Then he used those imaginary people to change what real armies believed. In a war of steel, ships, bombs, and machines, one of the most powerful weapons was a story. And Juan Pujol Garcia knew exactly how to tell one.